How's it going, everyone? We have had the major info drop for Dragon's Dogma 2, and the speculation is finally over. I have to be honest, I was a little bit skeptical when that early 2024 release window started circulating online, just because, I am a little bit skeptical with game release windows in general these days. With Capcom, maybe I shouldn't be, because they have been incredibly consistent outside of Pragmata, seeing a bunch of delays. Like, when Capcom releases a game, they're generally fairly good about circling around and releasing that game pretty quickly, but I just thought a game of Dragon's Dogma 2 scale, it's not going to be a 2024 game. I'll be happy if the game drops in early 2025 or just sometime in 2025, fall 2024 at the best. Well, we got the Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase, we saw a huge new enemy, we have pre-order information, and of course, we have the release date, March 22nd of 2024. We talked about it yesterday when I had talked about the leak and the speculation that the game was coming out in March, but my goodness, is the early portion of 2024 stacked. Not to be a broken record here, guys, but if you are even a little bit mindful of how much money you are spending in video games and you are remotely into Japanese games, buckle up, because 2024 is going to eviscerate the hearts and minds, and of course the wallets of gamers worldwide, because what a lineup we have for that early portion, and we'll have to see how the entirety of 2024 shakes out, but man, 2024 is looking to be on par, maybe even better than 2023. If I compare the first 3 months of 2023 to the first 3 months of 2024, guys, I think I'm leaning 24. When you have a quarter with both Dragon's Dogma 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a complete remake of Persona 3, and then a bunch of other titles to go along with it, like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I'm excited for Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite. Well, like, what are we doing here? Yes, I'm being a bit of a broken record, but I cannot get over how crazy 2024 is. But let's talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 itself. So they have a huge info rollout for the game. They've updated all the pages. In Dragon's Dogma 2, players experience the tale of the Arisen, a champion whose heart is stolen by the dragon, while the sequel setting mirrors the lush rolling hills of the cult classic Dragon's Dogma and its Dark Arisen expansion. The original adventure takes place in a parallel world containing two nations with distinct approaches to the dragon threat. Queen Regent Disa has installed a false Arisen to maintain control of the kingdom of Vermin for her son. Meanwhile, the Bisha nation of Batal considers the otherworldly pawns to be a source of misfortune and have turned to the worship of the Lambent Flame and their empress to ward off calamity. The showcase provided a look at some of the destinations that quests can lead players to, such as the reclusive 11 enclave of Sacred Arbor. The elves are there to communicate in their own language, and pawns are capable of understanding their speech that will translate for the Arisen, while in your party, pawns can also specialize in other skills, making each of their personalities more distinct. A journey defined by chaos. Upon starting your journey in Dragon's Dogma 2, players will be able to craft both their Arisen and main pawn using an intuitive and deep character creator that makes use of a variety of elements to enhance the realism of each character's appearance. Additionally, players can choose the personality of their main pawn, which will determine their behavior and conversation choices throughout the game. As players progress, they will unlock additional vocations, such as the newly revealed Trickster. The Arisen exclusive vocation can conjure illusions through the smoke created by its unique weapon, the Sensor. Tricksters can use illusions to deceive enemies into fighting against their own, and can temporarily increase the power of pawns beyond their limits. The new Trickster vocation showcases the ways players can manipulate and take advantage of their enhanced enemy AI to open entirely new combat opportunities. I've seen that be something that Dragon's Dogma 2 has consistently brought up, the enhanced AI, so it'll be interesting to see how that ultimately does parlay into the entirety of the game. The digital event also provided a first look at the returning Warrior and Sorcerer vocation that will be available to both Arisen and the pawns. The Warrior boasts a robust physique, specializing in direct combat with the strength to endure enemy attacks. Warriors are masters of two-handed weapons such as the Greatsword and the Hammer. The Sorcerer is completely specialized in various magic attacks. Their magic is conjured with both hands through a large staff and can change the tide of battle at any given opportunity. Obviously, you'll be able to confront fearsome foes, and we saw an absolutely ridiculous one in the showcase. Director Itsuna and producer Hirabayashi provided a first look at several monsters during the digital event, including the new Talos enemy, a towering bronze golem capable of wrecking untold destruction with a single step. After Talos rises from waters, players will need to make use of the various tools afforded them by their vocation, pawns, and terrain to subdue the mighty construct. The digital event also revealed gameplay for the Dulan and Drake enemies. Dulan is a headless specter capable of immobilizing its targets before striking with its powerful curved blade. Drakes are fearsome draconic foes capable of breathing a potent flame when confronted and taking flight to shift the scale of combat. A lot of large-scale enemies to be expected. If they're showcasing something like the Talos in a trailer, oh my goodness, there must be a ton of large-scale enemies. That's to be expected. Dragon's Dogma had its fair share of big enemies, and we're talking about a game that came out 11 years ago. 11 years later, 2 new consoles, the PS4 and the PS5 later. Yeah, I'm sure the scale of the game is going to be enhanced quite a bit. Talos, I think everybody agrees that played Shadow of Colossus. How much Shadow of Colossus vibes was that? Total SOT vibes I got in terms of climbing up the enemy and attacking it that way. But yeah, looks like some big scale battles will be had, and while it is a solo experience in terms of the entirety of the game, it's a single player game. The pawns are gonna offer you consistent support throughout, so it will feel like a party atmosphere as well, while also being your own single player style of game. It looks like they did put a lot of emphasis on the pawns as well, giving them a little bit of depth, so it does have that party atmosphere going on. We'll have to see how that translates to the entirety of the game. They also go over some of the additions available for the game. Now, there's a lot of interesting notes about this, but let's go over the basic stuff. In addition to the standard version of Dragon's Dogma 2 available for $70, a deluxe edition containing the new journey pack includes in-game items to help your Arisen on their journey, such as a custom camping kit, a wake stone, rift crystals, a Dragon's Dogma music and sound collection, and more will be available for $79.99. As much as I love Capcom, I feel like sometimes their digital deluxe editions are just complete nonsense. Like the Resident Evil 4 remake, that game's digital deluxe edition was nonsense as well. This one kind of looking like nonsense as well. Pre-orders of the standard edition will feature a bonus weapon for each of the 4 vocations, and deluxe edition pre-orders will also include the Ring of Assurance in-game accessory. So some pre-order bonuses as well. Interestingly enough, I do believe that this is the first $70 game that Capcom has published. Also interesting, and I didn't really think about it, this is the first true next-generation title that Capcom is putting out, because, correct me if I'm wrong, everything up until this point has been on previous-gen consoles. Resident Evil 4 was on PlayStation 4, Street Fighter 6 on PlayStation 4, Exoprimal, I believe, was on last-gen. You know, just across the board, they have done cross-gen games, and, you know, Capcom's a Japanese publisher. Usually, Japanese publishers do cater towards a previous generation for a little bit longer from what I've noticed, but yeah, almost 3.5 years into the PS5 era, and obviously the world went to hell, so it probably would have been a little bit quicker, but Dragon's Dogma 2 will be Capcom's first true next-generation title, and it will be their first $70 game as well. In the case of Dragon's Dogma, look, I don't love $70 games, and I certainly don't love stuff like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora having a $130 edition. Let me repeat that for you guys, $130. But, you know, for a game at the scale of Dragon's Dogma 2, and for how much content you're gonna get, look, I'm gonna let it, like, we've talked about it a lot before. Your Forspokens of the world, your Immortals of Epheus, baby, you ain't getting away with the $70 price tag. I'm sorry to tell you, but Dragon's Dogma 2, baby, you are gonna get away with the $70 price tag. I talked about it yesterday, but just to reiterate, I think this game is gonna crush it from a commercial standpoint for a variety of reasons. Look, Dragon's Dogma seemingly didn't do banger numbers. I hate that word, but it seemingly didn't do banger numbers back in 2012. I mean, it took all these years to get a sequel done, so I imagine it didn't do that crazy. It got ported to a bunch of different platforms, but it being ported to a bunch of different platforms, remastered, all that good stuff, Dark Arisen Edition, it has developed this cult following over the last decade or so, where there is this audience online that has played this game over the last decade and absolutely adores it. Not only that, that's point number 1. Point number 2, Capcom is absolutely adored as a publisher right now. Their narrative in the gaming world has completely shifted from what it was 7-8 years ago. They are beloved for how many quality games they put out. Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, Dragon's Dogma 2, 3 elite level games, and I'm confident in saying that Dragon's Dogma 2 is gonna be an elite level game in a 12-month period. Think about that. How many publishers are doing that? 3 top-level games in a 12-month period. Yes, they'll have their blunders like your Exoprimals and whatnot, but what publisher of Capcom scale isn't having one of that when they've got 3 games at the level of the aforementioned titles? More power to them. Finally, point number 3, the social media discussion in gaming is so much greater than it ever was, especially what it was when Dragon's Dogma 1 came out. This game comes out and it delivers. Oh, that dialogue is going to be heavy online, and when I look at it, and it could change, and I don't think it'll be a big problem for Dragon's Dogma 2 regardless, March isn't looking that crazy in terms of game releases yet. February is really the crazy month when you're talking about FF7 Rebirth, Persona 3 Reload, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Suicide Squad, Skull and Bones, I know you guys hate me saying that, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, and so on and so forth. March isn't really looking that from what I can see so far. March isn't looking as crazy, but I'll also offer you this. Dragon's Dogma 2, competition be damned, this game is gonna do well. The only level of competition that is gonna hinder a game like Dogma 2, really, I think, is a game like GTA 6. Like, I feel like Dogma 2 is gonna be in that FF7 Rebirth threshold in terms of hype and anticipation by the time we get to the release. Maybe it's not quite there yet. By the time we get to release, by the time the early reviews come out, I really believe that this game is going to be hotly anticipated within the gaming community, if it's not already. Maybe that is me pushing the cart before the horse, a little bit hyperbole attached, but I'm confident in Capcom these days. That's what happens when a publisher builds so much goodwill, that I'm confident that they're gonna do good work with this game. And that's coming from me, guys, if you've been watching my content over the last year, I am as pessimistic as they come. I am expecting game delays. I am expecting games to disappoint. I am expecting egregious microtransactions. But in the case with Dragon's Dogma 2, like, yo, I can complain about the meme deluxe edition, but like, I'm not gonna. I'm just excited that the game's coming out in March. It looks fantastic. I am curious about the performance issues and how the performance is gonna turn out, because Dragon's Dogma 2's PC system requirements have been revealed. They're like relatively modest. They're not crazy, but the thing is, they're not crazy if those were the system requirements for, let's say, 45, 50, 60 frames per second, but they are specified to be the system requirements for 30 frames per second, and it's an RTX 2080 that is on the recommended side of things for 4K 30 FPS, and they even note it's 30 FPS with frame rate dips. Now, we're 4 months away from the release of the game, a little under 4 months, so things can change as far as requirements are concerned, but that is something to be concerned of for sure. Capcom has done a pretty good job with performance in their games, but remember, Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, cross-gen titles. This, a true next-gen game. So that is the one point of skepticism that I have attached, that how is the performance of this game gonna be, but honestly, like, I seem to talk to a lot of people that are console-only gamers, and they seem to be fine with 30 frames per second. Most of you guys played Final Fantasy 16 in the 30 FPS mode, so it doesn't really seem like 60 FPS is as big of a deal to a lot of you guys as it is me. And sometimes you guys do get kind of sick of me constantly talking about 60 FPS, but that's my one minor point that I do want to make, and could be something to look at. But for the most part, for the overwhelming most part, I am incredibly excited and incredibly optimistic for the game, and I think it's going to be worth your $70 come release. And remember, I'm very much of the mindset not all these games are going to be worth $70, but a Dogma 2, I think it's going to be worth your $70. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Am I being too excited? A little bit of hyperbole, I'm sure some of you guys are feeling, but sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.